Welcome, everyone, to our conversation this evening highlighting National Teen Driver Safety Week. I'm lmeade, the Regional Manager for SAD in New York, and tonight we're excited to have this conversation with three of our awesome folks from this state, our members of our New York State SLC, or Student Leadership Council. SLC, do you want to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about where you're from, shout out your local chapter?
I suppose I'll go first. My name is Steven. I'm from Suffolk County, Long Island, New York, specifically Ward Melville High School in Stony Brook. I'm really passionate about students' mental health and promoting overall well-being in my school through SAD activities. And I'm looking forward to whatever we have in store this year.
I'll go next. My name is Blake Bird, and I'm part of the Whitehall SAD in Whitehall, New York, which is like super upstate, about an hour from Albany. And I'm excited to get started with some safety about teen driving.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm from the Bronx, New York. This is about my first year, part of SAD, and I go to the Ursuline School in Yorkshire, and I'm super excited for everything we have in store tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your evening with us. I know your schedules are jam-packed and crazy with all the things you got going on with school and after school, so we so appreciate the time with you sharing for teen driver safety. To give you all a little background, we've been recognizing National Teen Driver Safety Week for the last 14 years to raise awareness and seek solutions to help prevent teen injuries and deaths on the road. Many SAD chapters and groups around the country use this week to participate in awareness events, talk to their elected officials about better laws and how to get them, and generally just create a platform for that peer-to-peer positive change we know that SAD does every day in our chapters. We've always held teen traffic safety very close to the vest for SAD. It's always been one of the reasons we enjoy this work and one of the reasons we're doing this session tonight, not only to highlight the importance for teen drivers to recognize the safety aspects we're going to talk about, but also for their caring adults to have a set of rules, a think space, a way to create that sort of safe conversation, and also talk about some ways that our SAD chapters can kind of take on some activities and events to make positive changes in their home communities. So my first question to all of you is, do you all know that motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death for teens in your age group, 15 to 18 years old in the United States? Does that shock you at all?
It doesn't really shock me either, just because of all the things like technology and stuff that create distractions for teens now in this age.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as a teen driver myself, as I think probably Blake and Sarah, you guys are too, depending on your age. Today, I drove my dad and I to Supercuts. And, of course, as a beginner, I have to be very, very careful when I'm on the road. And I know that a lot of my friends and my peers around me don't necessarily exhibit the same care that I do. And, because we're teenagers, we're all doped up on hormones. It's very easy to become distracted and, not pay attention. And, it's accidents happen.
For sure.
I never knew that fact offhand, but I feel like with all the influences that teen drivers do have behind the wheel, it does make sense that could be the leading cause.
Yeah, for sure. So we always think about things that are equally as important, vaping or tobacco use, drug use, things like that. But we don't really think about traffic safety as much. And it's something that we kind of need to bring more to the forefront sometimes, I think. So at SAD, we know we're super in tune to the idea that the scared straight sort of tactic doesn't really work with anyone, certainly not teens. And the research continues to show us that, teens understand the risks, but they don't really know what they can do to stop situations from happening or maybe create that change. So tonight, I'd really like to talk to all of you and watch a couple of videos, get your reactions on those, and talk about some ways that we can change our behaviors, things that we can make quick changes, or ways that we can be better advocates, stand up, and avoid these sorts of situations from happening. We'll also, again, talk about those activities that SAD can do, or some things that you guys have done in your home chapters. I know that you're all in different and active chapters around our state. So we'll cover some of those too, and how to highlight those in your own communities. So just as a trigger warning ahead of time, there's nothing graphic or gory that we're going to show you this evening, but we're definitely going to watch some risky behavior behind the wheel. So I'm just going to give you that trigger warning in advance. And we'd also like you to make sure, note that these are not videos that we own. We're about to watch them, but we appreciate them and their public use on YouTube. So thank you to those who are highlighted tonight. We will put the links to the actual videos in our comment section so you can watch the full videos if you choose to this evening. So what do you think? You guys ready? All right, cool. So we're going to watch the first video from a police department out in Washington State, and we're gonna just check this out a little bit. So we don't have too much sound on this one, but how are we feeling so far? Because I'm already stressed out.
I think the zoomed in image gives you even more of a feel of what's about to happen.
Yeah, so thankfully, I know the end result. We're not going to see anything happen, but I think the picture-in-picture definitely gives us a good view of like what happens when you're distracted, right? So how do we feel about that? We lost Steve momentarily. He'll be back, I'm sure. How do we feel about that situation? Because I'm not doing so great.
The second guy didn't even look like he was driving. Like he was just focused on his phone the entire time.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
I think the fact that the video focused on phone usage, that's probably one of the biggest problems that teens have behind the wheel. And I think that shows the importance of actually paying attention behind the wheel.
Yeah. Sorry, we lost you there for a minute,
Hey guys,
Steve.
my
How you
screen
feeling?
crashed. Yeah, it said that the thing had to reload. What happened?
So at the end there, at the end driver,
but
the second driver.
See the video.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
That second driver, when we were looking down, we saw him looking down at the phone, you know, straight up, 2 hands off the wheel, and we're like turning or getting into the lane to turn or something. That's where I lost it. I was like, how are we driving like this? You're making a turn, crossing traffic. Oof.
Oh,
Okay. What do you think some ways that we can
all
like...
I saw was a guy look. Yeah. All I saw was a guy
Yeah.
looking down at his phone, and then the stream crashed. I was like thinking, oh God, did he just like die?
No, thankfully, we don't have any crash videos at this point from these folks. But, you know,
Good.
What are some things we can do if we have a distracted driver on our hands? I know we have all probably ridden with a distracted driver at this point. Sometimes it's even our caring adults who set bad examples for us. You know, what can we do to speak up about that? Give them a stop.
The one thing I do usually is if like my parents want to check their phone or something while they're driving, I'll say like, why don't I just read the text for you? Or I can text them back for you. Like you don't need to read it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll make like subtle gestures and be like, oh, like, you know, like look up, like look ahead of you. But again, like Blake said, you could always offer to help them either with their responses or read what someone else has been texting them.
Love it.
I usually might make like a subtle nudge, say, "Mom, eyes on the road," and Dad, just make sure you're watching what's going on.
Yeah,
I
right.
usually
So
say,
it's little
not that I know
pieces.
better.
But it's exactly that, right, Steve? Like these should be folks showing us the right examples for what we should be doing. So at the same time, I'm learning how to drive. So maybe you could just not be distracted.
Exactly, sure.
All right, cool. I want to slide into another one. So this one we're gonna look at basically has my anxiety on 112. So hang on tight.
Now I live in these streets, no matter where I'm going. On the dance.
All right. How do you feel about that?
I think the music alone was just making me very confused, but I think the fact that even the passengers were like moving around, and there were other people in the car, and the driver is not only in charge of their own lives but everyone else in the car. So I feel like that's something that gave me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
The other thing was like he was trying to look at his
Hey, guys,
friend's reaction, and like he was also driving with like one hand, like around all these cars. He's like driving with one hand.
Yeah, we saw a lot of red flags in this one.
The other thing that I thought was a huge red flag was like all of his friends were like celebrating and like talking and distracting the driver while they were driving, which is also I think another part we don't talk about is like other people in the car distracting the driver too.
Police, massive issue. Did you catch the one big thing that I caught with the passenger?
It looked like the passenger.
Hey, I'm sorry if I keep speaking over people and not really picking up on when to speak. The stream is really slow for me, so everything you guys say comes in like 2 seconds later. Hopefully, I'll be able to watch the next video.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to give you space to catch up. I know I can tell there's a lag.
Something else I noticed was the fact that the passenger, they didn't even look like they were like sitting in the seat properly, like no seatbelt on, possibly. I didn't see that exactly, but they were like crouched down, like, and obviously they should be like up with their seatbelt on, sitting properly, and there were a lot of things wrong with the video.
Yeah. I mean, that's an understatement for sure. But that's what caught me too. And I mean, look, the passenger was probably terrified because they almost rear-ended the white SUV that they were coming up on, but like, wow, a seatbelt really could have done a lot of help there. Yeah, there were a lot of issues. We identified a ton. So we've got a distracted driver, a driver driving with only one hand. I actually watched a whole bunch of the rest of the video, and they're also driving with a phone in their hand or some other recording device. So that added to the fun. Rowdy folks, loud music. We're clearly speeding around traffic. No seatbelts. Like there's just all of the flags that could possibly be out there. Yeah, that one was terrifying for me. So now that we kind of opened the door for the seatbelt conversation, this is one that we've had to talk a lot about recently, especially since November when New York passed the backseat bill that made it so that everyone in the vehicle has to wear a seatbelt by law. So I want to just harp on that for a hot second. This one's a little bit longer and hopefully it plays cleanly. So just let me know if it starts to skip or whatever.
How you doing today? My name is Dr. Jeremy Hefner. I'm the head of trauma surgery at Lyon Memorial Hospital. We've found recently, we've been seeing a lot of people not wearing seatbelts. All of us here on a regular basis see people not wearing seatbelts. To understand why that's important, the chances of dying is cut in half by 50% just by wearing your seatbelt. If you have a seatbelt and airbags, it'll decrease your chance of dying by 2/3, 67%. The truth is, we all have to see this on a regular basis. And we don't think that people fully understand what it looks like if you don't wear a seatbelt. So everybody tells me that doesn't wear one, they have an excuse. Everybody has an excuse. The most common thing I hear is, well, I'm just going around town. I'm only doing 25 miles an hour. So what we're gonna do first is show you what it looks like when your head hits a windshield at 25 miles an hour. That's what it is when you fall from that height. It'll hit at 25 miles an hour. Nate up there is gonna show you what that looks like. That's 25 miles an hour. What happens when you hit at 25 miles an hour is I end up sewing your scalp back to your skull. This is actually what your skull looks like when it hits the glass. If you're doing 40 miles an hour and you're not wearing your seatbelt, you're basically diving off of that into a piece of windshield. And I want to show you what that looks like. Oh, that's 40 miles an hour. Does anybody want to dive off of that into a piece of plate glass? I think we're all smarter than this. So if you know somebody that doesn't wear a seatbelt, share this with them. I want to thank these guys from Perry, American Township, and Lima Fire for their help, All Service Glass for their help, and Tom Walsh for their help in making this happen. If you know anybody that doesn't wear their seatbelt, please share this with them.
All right. So we apologize, I guess, because we sacrificed a few cantaloupes, but I think cantaloupes can stand it better than the human body. So how does that make you feel? Give us your reactions on the cantaloupes.
I think it's pretty crazy, especially because it's only at like 25 miles an hour and 40 miles an hour. And like, I know like on the highway, the speed limit, like the minimum is like 65 miles an hour. So people go way faster than that. And like, imagine how bad that could be.
I was just watching our like reactions on the side as I was watching the video, and you could tell how serious everyone got because it's such a serious topic, and the way that they portrayed it was like easy to understand, and like you never think about it that way, and it's always like, oh, like yeah, I'm just going to the grocery store, or like even now, like people in the backseat don't wear your seatbelt, and like I don't drive, but my sister does, and I'm like, oh, like before we go off, like so and so, are you gonna put your seatbelt on? And I think it's important to like think about that.
Sarah, you hit it perfectly because that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now. The backseat is the thing that we've been focusing on a lot because of this new bill, but also because we often see teens, especially those that are ejected in a car crash, are not using their seatbelts or not using them properly. And very often those folks may have sustained very little injury or survived the crash if they had just been wearing their seatbelt. So I think I found a great crash test dummy video that we're going to watch real quick because, you know, nobody wants to see this in real life, but in crash test dummies, way better. It gives us a good full effect. So I'm not sure if you're going to see this ahead, but they did paint the faces of the dummies so you can see like where their faces and pieces of their little mannequin bodies ended up touching different parts of the vehicle. So be on the lookout for that when we watch this. Poor dummies. So clearly we can see like the massive difference between a backseat passenger that's belted and not belted. Walk me through that.
I think you could see how the backseat passenger who was belted, it was a pretty intense jerk, but they were still brought back like to their original sitting position. Whereas the dummy that didn't have their seatbelt on would have probably, as you said before, been ejected from the car, and like there was a lot of movement. And just to like put that in perspective, if that was like someone that like you know, or just a random person on the road and that happened to them, it's a very serious topic.
For sure. Did you also see when they had the unbelted passenger in the back, they slammed right into the back of the driver's seat and pushed them all the way forward into the airbag, where you really didn't see that in the belted passenger because they were restrained, right? So now, like, we're not just talking about the backseat passenger being affected if a crash happens. We're talking about them being a projectile in the rest of the car to anything else that might be around too. And that's just terrifying. And to see like the car when they were done with the paint all over it, like where this person would have touched each space, crazy. You know, what's a good way that we can, and we hear this from teens a lot, you know, oh, it's not comfortable. Like I don't wear my backseat seatbelt. what's up with that? Like, how do we get our peers to start using belts more? What do we say? How do we speak up for this?
I mean, I know we said that like this, like the scare rule, like whatever, when you like scare them out of it. I mean, it might not be as effective, but like seeing that definitely would be like, I would never want to get into a car without like putting my seatbelt on, seeing like the difference between the two different dummies. So that's like one way to like tell me how to do something was probably to scare me into it. So I don't know.
For someone that isn't going to listen just by being scared, like I usually, like if I'm shotgun, I'll be like away to the back person. I'll be like, oh, if you don't put your seatbelt on, so whoever's driving is going to get a ticket. Like that's something to put in perspective. Like, oh, do you want her to get a ticket? Like, and then they're like, oh, if it's going to affect the driver, like firsthand, they're like, okay, fine. Like I'll put it on. And then like, but you still have to remind them like every time you get back in the car. But like, if they do it then when you're in the car, hopefully it becomes a habit.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. That's an easy way to kind of guilt folks into wearing their seatbelt if that's what we have to do, right? Like someone's going to get a ticket. I also have heard some other students pass along the advice, tell folks you're going to throw up in their car if you don't feel safe, like being in the car with this person. People aren't wearing belts. People are distracted. Speak up and say like, hey, I don't feel well. Like, can you just let me out? And you can find a ride some way else because you don't want to be involved in that kind of situation with folks that are unbelted in the back or be responsible for that. As a driver, you guys are both sort of thinking about driving, getting close to driving.
My birthday is Sunday. It's my 16th birthday, so I'll finally be able to have my permit. But I'm like I'm a youngin', so.
But we're getting close. So you've been watching your whole lives. You're carrying adults, friends, family, whatever, drive. What's a way that as a driver, we can impress the importance when you start driving, you sit in that seat, you're the one responsible for everybody. What's your go-to advice for like how to get everyone else to belt up?
The one thing I think like a driver could say is like, I'm not going to take you like to this place if you don't wear your seatbelt, or I'm not going to give you a ride, or I'm not going to take you to the mall or whatever. Because if like a driver said that to me, or if I was the driver, I mean, I would be mad because I would want to go like somewhere and I would want the ride. So I would definitely put my seatbelt on.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like you're doing that person a favor, like by giving them the ride. So they should listen to the rules that you have in your car. And you, as a driver, you have to be the one to set those rules.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better. So with SAD, of course, that's something, again, SAD has always focused on traffic safety. We like to reinforce these concepts as much as we can with fun activities and things that we can do within our SAD chapters. I know that you guys have had experience with SAD doing different things. Do you want to tell us a little bit about like some of the things that you have done? We have a whole curriculum, let's call it, for Rock the Belt, which is all about seatbelt safety while we're on that topic. So, what's something cool that you've done in your chapters as an example that we can give folks to use?
I'll go first. So one thing that my chapter did recently, we have a member in the National SAD Council, Student Leadership Council, Louis Pratt, and so he kind of orchestrated this project of like having people sign a seatbelt contract. So we went to the board of our village board, and all the board members signed a like thing that said I promise to wear my seatbelt no matter what. And we also went to something called the Sasquatch Festival, because like Sasquatch is the big thing in Whitehall, which is probably many people find super weird, but whatever, it's our thing. But so they also went there, and there was a little stand for SAD, and a lot of people actually signed the waiver too. And I remember my Louis told me that one of the people told him that their son was like, who's young, like maybe like a 6 years old about, said that he will like promise to wear his seatbelt because of what he learned at our SAD table.
Oh, that's so great.
My SAD chapter was actually in its like founding years. So I think something that we learned is that even if you're just starting a SAD chapter or you can't really get involved because of like different activities happening at your school, whether you're doing hybrid learning, you can always have some sort of activity to like spread the message. So last year, something that we started was with our morning announcements. We would have different SAD members say different things in the morning, for whether it was like driver safety month, stuff like that. And just to bring the whole student body to know what SAD is doing and what the messages that we're trying to get across that like day, that week, that month. And then another thing that we did, we posted different messages like around the school, whether they were like little graphics that we just found on Google about driver safety or different things like wearing your seatbelt. And I think because of that, we actually had more members join our SAD chapter.
That's awesome. So it's not only like a activity that you can do to help spread awareness, but also a recruitment tool, which I know a lot of our chapters are looking for. So that's awesome. I love that. Unfortunately, I think we lost Steve. We had connectivity issues, but I know he was also going to talk about a couple of events they did with Ward Melville side last year. I know they participated in the seatbelt selfie challenge that we have as part of our Rock the Belt curriculum as well. So if you follow them on social, I believe they're at WMSAD. You can check out their seatbelt selfies from last year. That's a super fun, easy activity that you can get involved, the whole school involved in just sharing easy Instagram photos of you wearing a seatbelt. Like, how easy is that? And they also did a sticker shock campaign last year, which was pretty cool, to prevent impaired driving. So, whether it's focused on an impairment with cell phones or an impairment with drugs or alcohol or even sleepiness, you can do a sticker shock campaign, which is really cool. You go out and you can put stickers on, different alcohol products to encourage folks not to sell to minors. You can put it on pizza boxes. So every pizza that's delivered from that place in the next, 2-3 weeks has a sticker on it with some sort of prevention messaging. There's some really easy ways to work a sticker shock campaign, and it's fun. It's pretty cheap, and it's a way to get out in the community too and start working that angle as well. You guys have any other fun stuff you want to share while we're at it?
I guess I can share this. We also have like a SAD Facebook and SAD Instagram pages. And Facebook is like a huge thing that we do in our town. I guess everywhere too. But we have like parent pages of like people from our community and all that kind of thing, all those kind of things. So we can share like information about like seatbelts or like this kind of like teen driver safety, all that kind of stuff. And also Instagram too. So more like kids, because I don't use Facebook as much. I mean, I go on there for SAD, like that's about it. But like we also have an Instagram page, which like kids my age use more. I think that we use more Instagram. But then they can see it just on stories and little posts like that with everyone sharing it. So that's what we do too.
I think the curriculum that Lauren was talking about can be found on the SAD website, correct? So once you go to the website, you can even like narrow it down to like your state advisor or like leader, and then learn more information through that.
Took the words right out of my mouth. So yeah, exactly that. So we have guides and things to get you guys started. You don't have to rethink the wheel. So for our SAD chapters that are out there that are looking for something to do, looking for an easy way to kind of break into just some traffic safety activities or ways to raise awareness, create that peer-to-peer interaction, we definitely have all of that. So you can either get in touch with me, you can DM us on social. I'm actually gonna put some information right down there at the bottom. So you can give us a shout however it's easiest. You can also email me, lmeade@sad.org, or use the website. Like Sarah just said, we have a fancy new website. You can submit a request through there as well. Super simple. We put out a full mobilization guide for this National Teen Driver Safety Week as well. So you're more than welcome to use that now or any other time you like. Just because it's not National Teen Driver Safety Week next week doesn't mean you can't focus on traffic safety activities. So by all means, use those things, ask for help, follow other SAD chapters on Insta as well, or on any of the other social platforms. There's so many SAD chapters out there that have started their own social media accounts, and it's a great way to share activity ideas, information with each other, DM one another for tips and ideas on like how to do certain things. I love that, Blake. Thank you. And if you're interested in joining something like the SLC, give us a shout for that too. We've always got leadership opportunities, different contests and challenges going on. So we so appreciate you guys getting involved, staying involved. Thank you to Sarah, Blake, and Steve, who we just lost connection with, unfortunately. We appreciate your reactions, your ideas, your willingness to participate in this stuff, and for being awesome advocates for SAD and yourselves. It's really important. With that, we will give you all back the rest of your evening. Have a great night, everyone, and remember to speak up and stay safe.
Bye.